Okay, so welcome to this. This is number 6 of my YouTube series where I just draw and I talk about stuff. My name is Ken. Nice to meet you if I haven't met you already. So, a few things are going to be a bit different today. I've got this light first of all, and also you might notice I usually use a larger paper like this so big, but I seldom finish it in time. So this time I have a smaller piece, just about 9 centimeters around. I don't know if I can finish up in 10 and 30 minutes, but I'll try. Anyway, so when I do a circle, I usually start at the 10 o'clock point. If it's 12 o'clock here, then try to think between a 10, like 11 and 10. I'll start from here and I'll go out this way, especially because I'm right-handed, so it just comes naturally to start there. You can also start in the center and work your way around and out. If you're left-handed, you can start from this way, the 2 o'clock sign, but I like to start from this side. The other thing that's going to be different today is that there's music in the background. I really like this album. It's my favorite piano album by a guy named Keith Jarrett. And when he plays, he sounds like he's playing the song for the first time. It sounds very improvised, and I like that. My drawings are also improvised, so anyway. The other thing is today is the 6th video that I'm doing, and in the past, my videos, the topics have been a little bit more rambly, a little bit more tekito. But today, I'm going to be doing something that's a little bit more topical, a bit more thematic. For my birthday this year, I did a ooh, did I just shake the camera again? I did a post on my Facebook page about the things I'd learned in 2019, and it actually got a really good response. Lots of people commented on it and said that they really enjoyed the post, so I thought I'd talk about that a little bit, the different things that I learned in 2019. So here it goes. The first thing I learned in 2019 is that love and friendship and companionship are wonderful, you know, like romance or having friends or you know, family. Those things are all really, really great. They're wonderful things, and I'm not saying they're replaceable. They are important in their own right. They're wonderful, but they aren't everything. They're not the all in all. So there's lots of other wonderful things in life that are really fulfilling, like, for example, drawing like this, or listening to a good piece of music, or taking a nice walk in a forest, just having a really satisfying meal by yourself, or, you know, the satisfaction of learning maybe a new skill or something, you know? Not everything in life is about other people. A lot of things are just about you and what you can do by yourself. So I think that's one thing I learned this year. I did grow up quite lonely, liked to be alone a lot. So I think it's, you know, some people think that because I hang out a lot and I, you know, I don't know how to explain this, but they think I'm quite extroverted and I hang out with friends a lot, but it's also important, I found this year, that it's important to take time to yourself, you know? So, okay. So, the second thing I learned this year was that love is hard to measure. Like, of course, love is definitely a thing. I'm not saying love is not real, but I think it's very enigmatic. It's not something that's so easy to identify or to pinpoint, you know? Love is not a thing in itself. I think it's more like a sum of its parts. That's what I find love is. It's kind of like like a mole sauce. It's not a mole sauce without all the components of it. Or like a Long Island iced tea. It needs all its components to make it what it is, right? So when someone says they love you, for example, that's a really wonderful thing, but it's important, but it doesn't mean as much as it would, for example, for, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I'm not really being very articulate about it. But there's other things that are more easy to measure. Things like respect, for example. If you say someone says, I love you, like, how do you measure love? But you can measure respect. You can see respect. It's tangible, it's visible, or by someone's acts of kindness to you, or how much time they take for you, how they treat you, you know, how they talk to you, how they talk about you. Those are the things that you can actually see and measure. So I've learned that love is important, but it's very enigmatic, and it's better to use a better, more accurate metric for seeing if someone cares for you or if you care for someone, you know? Love is really, it's not just a feeling, it's an actual skill. It's an art, I believe. I'm of that opinion, that love is not just something that you can feel like hunger. That's just the preliminary stage. You need to actually do something about it. You need to learn to be good at it. It's like an art. I read this book by Erich Fromm. Originally it's in German, but I don't read German, so I read it in the translation of it. It's a very good English translation, as well as a very good Japanese translation of this book, called The Art of Loving. And some of the premise is a little bit archaic, quite heterocentric or heteronormative in its descriptions of, you know, male and female roles in a relationship, etc. But as far as its central premise that love is an art and something that we need to work at rather than just some sentiment that will make everything go well, it's something that needs work. And discipline is something that I really, really identified with and I thought was great. So anyway, basically, sum up point number 2. Love is hard to measure, but its components like respect, time, attention, and effort can be more easily gauged and measured. Okay, so the third thing I learned last year was to ask for and to offer help. I think I'm quite reluctant to ask people for help outright. I'm often the one people ask for help, which I'm generally pretty happy to do. But when it comes to asking people for help, I'm sometimes quite reluctant to. I don't know why. Sometimes it makes me feel insufficient or weak. But the fact of the matter is, I am sometimes insufficient and weak, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, just to ask for help and to offer help, and not to expect to get something in return. By nature, I'm not a person who usually, when I do something nice for someone, I'm not usually expecting something in return. That's something about myself that I quite like, actually. It's, I'm generally quite a giving person, I feel. Maybe it's something from my upbringing, or I don't know where it's from, but that's something about myself that I like. But, I've been learning that more, I guess, okay? So I don't know where I was going with that, okay? And also not to take kindness of others people for granted, you know? I think some of my friends last year, I realized that I'd kind of been taking them a little bit for granted because they're always there. They're always available to talk to. And I'm like, yeah, I'll catch up with them anytime. I don't need to upkeep our friendship. We've been friends forever. You know, I don't need any maintenance there. We're just those kinds of friends who we'll talk but the thing is that some people might be like that, but you need to check in because people change, you change, and you need to, friendship is a relationship just like anything else, any other relationship, and it does need upkeep and communication, and sometimes you're going to have your difficulties. Friends even break up, you know, and I think we're not really taught how to deal with a breakup with a friend. Like when you break up with a boyfriend or with a girlfriend, for example, we kind of like art teaches us how to behave with that. So like, you know, pop culture, there are songs about it, there's films about it, people talk about it, how to deal with a divorce or the breakup or the dissolution of a romantic partnership or marriage. We kind of know how to go through the grief. It doesn't make it necessarily, doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's a bit more normalized, the behaviors that go around accepting the dissolution of a romantic partnership. When it comes to a friendship, when that breaks apart, we also don't have a lot of like education about how to deal with that, grief. And it's also not something that we talk about so much with people. Whereas with breakups, friends are like, oh, I'm going to be there for you. But when a friendship breaks up, it's not as, we don't find as much support from around us. Although the end of a friendship can be devastating, we're just not feeling as validated to be allowed to grieve the loss of a friendship, for example. So I don't know, that was just a really kind of a random side note. But yes, I don't want to lose friends. I want to keep my friends because they're such wonderful people. And if you're watching this, if you're one of my friends, thank you for being there for me last year, which is a hard year for me, but this year I think so far off to a better start. Okay, so that point was the third point, I think, to ask for and to offer help, and not to take your friends for granted, to check in with them. Okay, the number 4 was when someone's done something that I don't like they've behaved in a way I don't like, to use that moment as a reflective point. Like, of course, you have to experience that frustration, or you need to feel that moment and deal with your own emotions after you've done that. Once you've taken care of what you need to take care of in that moment, use that as a teaching moment for yourself to reflect on whether, like, what I've been doing is when someone does something that I don't like, I take the moment to kind of think about whether it's something I've also unintentionally done myself, perhaps, or something similar. And I think it's good to, examine our actions as well, our own actions. I'll take that as a moment. And it also helps me to remember that, like, I'm not perfect either. And, you can turn an unpleasant situation into a teaching experience by doing that sometimes. I'll see, look, I'm already making quite a bit of progress here with this. Happy about that. Okay. So that was number 4. And let's go on to number 5. Okay, that my dearest friends don't always need me to be at my best. I have this fear. I don't know if it's a legitimate one or where it's from, but I do have this fear, and I think that a part of dealing with your fears is not to hide them, but to talk openly about them too, because then a lot of fear's power is in its elusiveness, how it hides in the background. Its power of shame. We're too scared or too embarrassed to talk about the fear or the shame, and therefore it can't really be dealt with. Kind of like so one of the biggest fears I have is the fear of being boring, and that my friends are going to get bored of me or tired of me. And it's not, if I think about it, it's not really a rational fear. It's not. Because most of my friends really like me, from what I understand. Of course, I have people get bored of me, and that's fine. I think that sometimes you can't expect to always be fun. Sometimes you're just a boring person, and that's fine. I've understood that I'm not fun all the time for everybody, and I'm fine with that. I've been in relationships where the person's gotten bored of me. That was really sad, but that's life, right? But irrationally, I can be very afraid of people being bored of me. And I really want to be like a value friend so that people don't dump me. Isn't that horrible? That's like coming from a really toxic place of us thinking that people are friends with us for what they can get from us. I'm not friends with my friends for that reason. I'm friends with them because of the memories of, just because we've formed a relationship, and that, and it's fun to be with them. You laugh with them, and they know you. You don't have to go back and you don't have to introduce yourself to them every time you meet them. They kind of know you. It's like a series you've been watching for a long time. You don't need to, you know, you don't need to get acquainted with all the new characters. You already know everyone. It's that familiarity which is comforting. But when it comes to my end of it, I sometimes, inexplicably can have that tendency to be afraid that my friends are just going to drop me, although I would never do it to them, right? So that's kind of a double standard, and it's not a positive double standard. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, but my friends don't always need me to be at my best. I don't always need to be super funny, or I don't always need to be super witty or super helpful. You know, sometimes I'll have a bad day, and it's fine. It's really fine. Sometimes I'm just not going to be perfect, you know? So I've learned that a little bit. Yeah, okay. So last year, during my roughest time, some of my friends just sat with me, you know? I remember last year when I was feeling particularly depressed, I went over to one friend's house and we watched the Utada Hikaru special on Netflix. And I didn't say anything. I just sat there on his couch and I just watched this Utada Hikaru show. He made me some whiskey drinks and he just sat over at his computer while he did a bit of work, and we watched the thing together, and he's like, if you want to talk, let me know. And I didn't really want to talk. Like, actually, I really did want to talk, but I was quite traumatized with a lot of stuff, you know, last year. So I just sat there and watched that concert with him, and he was just there for me. And that was the best thing he could have done. And yeah. And I was just a mess, but I wasn't at my best or anything, you know. But still, he accepted me. He was there for me, and I'm like that with my friends too. I'm there for them, and sometimes I can expect the same of them as well. So Sayuri, I don't know if you're watching this right now. You're probably, if you are watching this, Sayuri, I want to thank you so much for what you said to me last year after my birthday. That you don't always need me to be my best. You still want to support me and be there for me no matter in what state I'm in. And I'm so thankful for that. Thank you. I'm going to stop trying to always be so perfect when I'm not and when I can't be. When I'm weak, I'm just going to rely on my friends more because, you know, you're always there for me, you guys. And I think this is something that we have is kind of this, I think the writer Mark Mason, he put it as kind of a cool economy culture that a lot of young people have these days. A lot of us have these days where we have a very capitalistic view of love, where it's not, where it's like, how is my relationship with you going to add value to my life? How is it going to make, like, what's in it for me? This very, like, what value do I get out of you? Consumerist attitude towards relationships, and that is really toxic. That's not what we're here for. We're here to, you know, love is something bigger than that, I feel. So I don't want to be like that. Really not waxing very articulate about this, but yeah, hopefully you get the idea. Okay, so the number 6 is a little bit not as maybe intense or deep. Not every meal needs to be amazing. I really enjoy food, and I'm quite picky about it. I think I was raised in a family that was pretty picky about food, and about just, my dad's quite a coffee snob. We never had instant coffee in the house, for example. To this day, we don't use things like artificial artificial flavorings in the house. He's quite a food purist in some ways, and also a junk food addict in some other weird, ironic ways. But we are growing up with very, very specific attitudes about food, which is not a bad thing. I'm glad for that part of my upbringing. But it comes to, like, when I will make dinner, I'll make something always. I'll spend a lot of time trying to make something really good. Or when I go out, I won't have like a cheat meal. I'll try to like eat something good all the time. and it's become kind of disproportionate, where I feel like I wish it didn't mean this much to me. And am I caring this much about food because I actually care this much about food, or just because this is how I was raised, and maybe that time and money would be better spent for something else? So I still do really enjoy food, but I make it more of a treat when I eat out somewhere nice, and I do it less frequently nowadays. And I take that time and money saved, and I put it towards other things like my art, or, you know, getting an extra drink with a friend or something like that. So not every meal needs to be amazing. Sometimes, and I'm not super hungry, instead of a meal, I'll just have a really healthy little snack or something like that. And I won't sit down for the full meal. And that's fine. So that's something I've learned this year. Not every meal needs to be amazing. All right. Number 7. This one hurts a bit. This is not something I'm happy about. It's not something I've learned, but it's more just a kind of a little realization I've had, that the artwork that I personally like, that I do, like there's some pieces that I do that I really enjoy, that I draw them and I'm quite impressed with myself. I think, oh wow, I've done well. But then they are not the ones that my friends like usually, or that my buyers like. My buyers usually likes the more experimental stuff that I do, that is not as usually when I try something new and I'm like, nah, that didn't really work out, I didn't really like it, those ones are usually the ones that sell, oddly. So in my art, the ones that I like the most and put the most effort into are not kind of, they get panned. People don't really, they're like, oh, that's really detailed, that's really cute or whatever, but they're not really into it. Usually what they like is when I do something kind of silly or kind of colorful, something that I don't even really like. Why is that, I wonder? Yeah, if any of you are out there artists or musicians, you might find that as well, that people don't necessarily like the stuff that you put the most of yourself into, and I'm sure it can be a little bit perplexing sometimes. For me, it's not upsetting. It's fine. It's not upsetting for me, but I can imagine for some people how it might be a little bit like, why, you know? Okay. The eighth thing I've learned this year was to use spices and herbs a lot more liberally. I think I've been quite, when I cook, I tend to skimp. I'm quite austere. Is that a word we're still using these days? With my uses of spices, especially salt. I don't like to oversalt my food or go overboard with the spices, which is probably a good thing, because, you know, you can really enjoy the taste of the food itself more. But sometimes when I'm making something a little bit more intense, I'm trying to learn this year, last year, 2019, I learned kind of to take a little bit more adventure, to use a little bit more spice, you know. Things like, you know, cumin, or a little bit of clove. Not too much of it, because it will just ruin any meal if you use too much of it, you know. But to be a little bit more acidity, a little bit more spice, just to make things a little bit more exciting, you know. I think that my earliest cookbooks, besides Japanese cooking, which were always Japanese cookbooks, but a lot of my cookbooks about non-Japanese food were British cookbooks by people like Delia Smith or Jamie Olivers, and like bless them, thank you for your service, whatever, but they really don't know how to make, for example, something like a Tex-Mex chili, or a Tom Yum Goong, or a good bibimbap, for example. Their recipes for those things are pretty insipid, you know, pretty embarrassing. So yeah, learning new things all the time. Don't trust British cooks for spicy food recipes. Okay. Number 9, to reach higher professionally, not to settle for being paid less than what I think my work is worth. This is kind of related to my day job, and also to my art, to my teaching, to just all my little side gigs in general. Can't keep on charging the same things, the same as I used to charge when I was 20 years old. I'm going on 30 soon. My work quality has improved. My negotiation quality has improved. My credibility has gone up, hopefully. And I think how much would I be willing to pay someone that is as good as at what I do as I am? And I'm confident in what I do. Most of the things I do and people pay me for, I feel confidence in. And that's, okay, most of the things. Some of the things I'm still a little bit like, this is difficult to say. Some of the things I'm still a little bit like, wow, winging it through. And it comes out okay, but I won't, I'll personally feel like I wish I could do better with some things, but that's part of the process. But with most of the things I do, I feel quite confident and professional in them. So not to settle for people paying you less than you feel you're worth, because there are plenty of people, if you can negotiate well, who will pay you what you're, and it's also good for your self-esteem. Yeah, so the reason I quit a really fun job I had last year, actually, was that they just couldn't pay me what I felt my time was worth. And therefore, I just felt that's, kind of also a show of respect as well, in a way. So I had to part ways with that. Anyhow, yes, don't be paid less than what you know you're worth. It's know your worth and, yeah, charge for it, basically. Okay, so next one is I don't remember which number this is. Let me just go down them. I did number 1, love and friendship are wonderful. They're not everything. Number 2, love is hard to measure, but respect can be measured. Number 3, ask for, offer help in return. Number 4, to use opportunities when someone does something you don't like, to reflect and see if you do something similar sometimes. Number 5, that your friends don't always need you to be perfect. Number 6, not everything needs to be amazing. Not every meal needs to be amazing. Number 7, the artwork I like the most is not the artwork that others like. Number 8, to use spices more liberally. Number 9, to reach higher professionally. Number 10, that's where I am now. Okay. That it's sometimes still great fun to do stuff I am bad at. Yeah. I have a lot of hobbies. I'm not super good at everything I do. Actually, I don't really think that I have, even like people tell me that they really love my artwork, I still feel I have a really, really long way to go in my artwork before I can consider myself a very good artist. But that's fine. I think I never want to reach the point where I think I'm amazing, because I don't think that I think it's best for me to be kept on my toes and to be wanting to create something better, and that motivation is actually pleasant for me. I like it. So I think I'm good at cooking, only because I enjoy the food I make, because I make it in a way that I would like to eat it. So that's something I'm confident in, and I'm still learning about it. But some things I really enjoy, I'm just not that good at them. I really enjoy dancing. I really enjoy singing. I really enjoy writing, for example. But a lot of these things, I'm not like super good at them. But I'll do them anyway. Last year I recorded a bunch of like ukulele covers, and I've had some people tell me they were really good. I've had some people tell me they were really, really bad. Some of them were pretty bad, and I later deleted them because I just listened to them and I thought, oh my god, they're really bad. But I really enjoy making a lot of them, and I think what I learned last year is that it's okay. Sometimes you don't always have to be amazing at everything you do. Just do something that you're not so good at sometimes, and it's fine. Just enjoy it anyway. So and you improve, or maybe you don't. I don't know. With some of the things I really enjoy, I've not improved. I've been playing violin off and on for about 10 years. I'm still really bad at it. Maybe that's why I don't do it so much anymore. But yeah, with some things I am not that great at it, but like friends invite me out bowling sometimes. I'm really bad at bowling, but I'll go anyway sometimes, Or, yeah. So, that's one thing I learned. Okay, number 11. Just because someone's mad at me, it doesn't mean by default that I've done something inherently wrong. So, that's actually was something I learned. I think I am quite a people pleaser, as and this is not an intrinsically bad thing if you know where it comes from inside of yourself. It's from a place of wanting to avoid conflict and of wanting to create harmony with people. So the intention can come from a good place. But the results are usually, I think, negative of being a non-confrontational people pleaser. And that's kind of what I am. So sometimes when someone's mad at me, I apologize right away just because they're mad. Which is maybe, some of that might be cultural. But sometimes you need to realize that sometimes people are mad at you, but you actually have not done anything wrong. And it's okay to apologize for upsetting them, but you don't need to blame yourself right away. Sometimes you've done nothing wrong, and this other person is just really internalizing something that is their problem, and maybe you've just triggered something in them that's unfortunate, but it's not your responsibility. And to not, by default, think that you've done something wrong just because someone gets upset at you or you've hurt someone. Sometimes that just happens. Yeah, doesn't mean that you should be insensitive. No, not at all. But don't let your default reaction when someone is upset be that, oh, you've done something wrong. So I'm learning to try to distance those two things lately. All right? Okay. Well, oh, Sasa is watching now. Hi, Sasa. I said something earlier that I wanted you to hear. Okay, well, I've gone over the 30-minute mark for my YouTube video, so I'm gonna stop this video once, and I'm gonna start a new video for my YouTube part. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here, and you can continue in part 7. Good night.